Good evening, everyone. I'm Vishal Salsekar, and today we are going to cover the News Today articles for 16th and 17th of November. So, in today's discussion, we are going to cover four articles in detail, which includes the first article regarding the impact of disaster on agriculture and food security. So, recently there has been a report from the side of FAO regarding pointing out towards the disaster and its impact on the agriculture, and how that particular technology or the artificial intelligence or certain other aid with respect to technological tool can be useful in this particular regard. The next important article that we are going to cover is regarding the national platform for climate and nature's finance, right? So in this particular article, this is basically covering what has happened recently in the COP30 in the Belém, right? So there are multiple articles even in the quick updates that we are going to talk about that. So we will discuss here regarding the climate and the climate finance related things in this particular article in detail. The next article is regarding the usage of artificial intelligence in governance. So as we have already seen in different set of articles that how artificial intelligence is impacting in various fields, specifically now from the governance perspective, in different dimensions of governance, how artificial intelligence is playing a very important role, whether it is agriculture, whether it is climate change, whether it is disaster, whether it is any other thing, that artificial intelligence is providing a way ahead in those particular regards. Next is regarding the white collar terrorism. So you might have already heard of the white collar jobs, right? But recently there has been a term that has emerged regarding the white collar terrorism. So there was a massive blast on the sides of the Red Fort, and out of that particular blast, it was observed that those people who are not actually deprived, but they are the people who can access a lot of resources, and they were also involved in the terror activity. That gives a highlight regarding the white collar terrorism. So we will discuss regarding this particular concept and what are the other factors with respect to the terrorism related architecture. Then we are going to discuss regarding the personality in news, who is Kartar Singh Saraba. So a prominent personality played a very important role as far as the Gadar movement is concerned. We'll discuss about him, and then there are certain other quick updates that we are going to cover. So let's start the discussion with the very first article regarding the impact of disasters on the agriculture and food security. So 2025 report by Food and Agriculture Organization FAO has talked about this particular thing, that the disasters are impacting the food security, they are also impacting the agriculture and the agricultural productivity. So from the perspective of UPSC examination, agriculture, environment, ecology, climate change, it is a very important aspect. Along with that, GS paper 2, governance and public policy also, it is a very prominent topic to be discussed, right? Now, what has been the key highlight as far as this particular report is concerned? So what report is highlighting? That the disasters are one such thing which is disrupting the food production. You might have already heard of that, whether there are certain meteorological events in those things or those cases may there is impact on the food production. But when there are disasters, those particular disasters also lead to a lot of disruption as far as the food production, as far as the availability of the food is concerned, right? So there is a direct relation or the correlation between the two. And also this report highlights regarding the digital transformation as a game changer in this particular theme. So how digital transformation, how the new technological domain is going to help as far as the food security and the agricultural productivity is concerned. So the way ahead that we have to discuss is regarding the utilization of technology in this particular aspect. Now, the report obviously gives certain data that you can also utilize in your answer. So first, this report talks about the financial losses that is coming as a outproduct of the disaster. So it is mentioning that roughly $3.26 trillion has been lost, or when we are talking specifically about agriculture, has been lost over the period of roughly 33 years. So if there is any question that is asking regarding the impact of disaster specifically on the food productivity or the food production or food security is concerned, in those cases this can be a app data that you can utilize, that last 33 years, roughly from 1991 to 2023, there has been lossage of more than $3 trillion. That says that the disasters are one of the largest impact wala aspect as far as the food security is concerned. Next, it is mentioning specifically when we talk about the cereal crops, they are going to get worst sufferer as far as the the impact of the droughts are concerned. Generally, one of the largest area that is under the cereal crop. That's why obviously it is a very obvious thing that they are the worst sufferer. Now, talking about the region specific thing, so obviously Asia is one such region which is holding one of the largest population in the world. So in that case, the largest share is obviously being borne by the Asia, and the losses are amounting for the 47%. That is aptly highlighted by, if you see the population ratio also, so that gives an idea that yes, Asia must be the worst sufferer. But apart from that also, when you talk about the issues like the disasters which include floods, storms and many other things, even including the desertification and all these things are impacting Asia comparatively more. So this is the thing that we have to understand, that Asia is one of the worst sufferer as far as the financial losses because of the drought is concerned. And we are here relating it with the agriculture and the food security. Next, talking about the disruption in the nutritional requirement. So there has been multiple reports, multiple agency talks about that this much number of calorie or the calorie intake should be there, roughly 2400 or 2100 kilocalories that are needed for an individual in order to survive properly, in order to fulfill its entire calorie intake for the day. So in that particular context, this report is highlighting that there is reduced availability of roughly 320 kilocalorie per person. So if we are assuming roughly 2400 kilocalories, because of the droughts, disasters and different other type of events, it is getting reduced. This gap is being created. That means if not filled, it is going to create the issues like malnutrition. It is going to create issues like stunting, wasting and other situations, right? And eventually this will reflect into the form of the poor demographic dividend, right? So this is one such major issue. Talking about the livelihood pay impact, so it is also impacting livelihood, because see, when you talk about the employment, when you talk about the migration, when you talk about a lot of things, all these things are dependent on the disaster, because if the stability is there, then obviously there will be comparatively easy place available for the people to live. But when there are disasters, there is lack of food security, obviously people will tend to migrate, right? So the marine heat wave caused roughly $6.6 billion losses between 1985 to 2022, affecting 15% of the global fisheries. So fisheries are one such thing which is sensitive to the temperature, and when there is marine heat wave, that is causing $6.6 billion losses. So we have seen it is impacting agriculture, it is impacting the fisheries sector. So entirely when we talk about the impact of the disasters as far as different facets of the food security are concerned, whether production or productivity, that is getting reduced, right? So these are the handy and the ready-made data available that you can write, that you can put, because every year UPSC keeps on asking regarding the impact of climate change on different things, whether it is food security, whether it is health, whether it is any other domain. Now, talking about the role of technology, because the report is also highlighting that yes, there are issues because of the disaster, but what is playing a very important role is the technology. That this technology is going to help us in order to get rid with certain type of issues that we are facing because of the issues like the disaster. So it is talking about the resilience of the food system. So it says that basically when we talk about this particular situation, that the technology is playing the role, the technology is playing a very important role as far as the food security is concerned. So the resilient food system is going to be ensured through the help of the technology, right? So it provides the bridge between the infrastructural gap. Suppose karo, if you have to implement certain things in some specific area, this is the technology, it is going to help you. Apart from that, timely deployment, because the things are time sensitive. If you are taking too much time in that particular scenario, the time will pass and eventually the result will not be appearing in this particular situation, because the climate change is hampering the life and impacting the life at a very high speed. So that particular thing, resilience of the agri-food system, and that will be available through the help of technology, whether it is capacity building of the farmers or ensuring them about the productivity, ensuring them about certain kind of utilization of the tools, whether it is drone, whether it is like data gathering, data collection, first of all identification of certain type of weather parameters. All these things will be helpful from this. Next, shift from the reactive response to the proactive risk reduction. So if one is available that this particular year may there will be comparatively lesser rainfall, so they will prepare accordingly. They will sow their particular seeds in that particular manner only. They will arrange the alternative irrigation methods. So these things will be available only when there is deployment of technology, whether it is the space satellite, whether it is drone technology, whether it is the irrigation technology. So early warning system, if that is available, that is going to help as far as the prediction, as far as the deployment of the different remedial tools are concerned. Lastly is the economic benefit. So when we talk about the agrometeorological advisory services, that means beforehand you are aware regarding what will be the rainfall, what will be different other parameters, how that particular region will behave, and in that particular manner you will be able to ensure comparatively better approach. And this will reduce the input cost, because otherwise kya hoga, if you have to take certain measure in the hasty manner, so in that case the cost is going to get increased. So this is going to reduce the cost roughly by 29.65 per hectare for the wheat. This is the data that you can utilize, but these are the role of technology. And iske alawa bhi a lot of other things that you can add in this. For example, there is drone that we are going to see over here. So India's adoption, how India is faring good with respect to the adoption of technology as far as the agricultural system is concerned. So deployment of the artificial intelligence and IoT, which is like Kisan E-Mitra, which is basically a chatbot, where you will ask the queries. You as a farmer are going to ask the queries about different things, whether it is about the agriculture related things or whether it is any government scheme related things, and it is going to help you with the answer in the simple and the layman's term. Then the national pest surveillance system. So if you are having an idea that what will be the incidence of the pest in that particular field, then you will be able to prepare accordingly. So that thing is also being provided, and these tools are going to utilize the artificial intelligence in order to gather the data, in order to assess the trend, in order to collate all these things, and or to provide the informed decision making to the farmer. Then the space technology. So there is FASL, which is the forecasting agriculture output using the space, agrometeorological and the land based observation. So it is going to provide the forecasting facility, along with that using of the space, agrometeorology, and along with that the land based observation. So different thing that we have talked about in early warning as well as the agrometeorological thing that India is doing with the help of FASL. Next is there is deployment of the drone also. So first of all, there have to be a capacity building of the people. So Namo Drone Didi scheme, which is helping the women specifically to deploy the drone in the agricultural field in order to surveillance, in order to do a lot of activities, including deployment of certain seeds and others. So basically Namo Drone Didi scheme, along with that the Swamitwa scheme, which is for the land record or modernization of land record, or creating the reduction of the disputes as far as the land records are concerned. So for that Swamitwa scheme is there. So these are certain tools that government has employed in order to utilize the technology in the agricultural domain, and this is the way ahead also, that this can pave the way for the sustainable agriculture, reducing the food insecurity and converting it into the food security, right? Now talking about how in different times UPSC had asked the question regarding the food security. So food security bill is expected to eliminate the hunger and the malnutrition in India, critically discuss various apprehension in the effective implementation along with the concern. So this was asked regarding the WTO when the food security, because there was a summit where it has been mentioned regarding jo India provide karta hai in the form of, let's say, providing the subsidized grain. So there was the agreement, and in this particular year there was substantial things that were done in WTO. That's why in that context question was asked. But now when we are discussing about the food insecurity or food security, so in that manner you can prepare this topic along with the data that we have discussed, right? Next is regarding the India announced a plan to develop a national platform for the climate and the nature finance. So recently there has been COP30 in the Brazil that had happened, and there were multiple decisions that were taken by entire group and by the selective set of countries that we are going to discuss in multiple set of articles. So this is important because this is talking about the platform for the climate and the nature finance. That's why for the financial aspects of mitigating the climate change, it is an important article, and that's why GS paper 3 mein it is going to be very important. So GS paper 3 environment, ecology and climate change, along with that economy or the economic development, along with that GS paper 2 mein international relations and global governance. Now, talking about what had happened in this particular regard in the COP30, which had held in Belém, Brazil. So, first of all, from the prelims perspective also, this is a very important fact that where this COP30 was there can be a one-liner question that can also be asked. So Belém, which is a city in Brazil, right? So India, along with the 13 other developing countries and the regional organization, have announced to establish the country or the region specific platform. So previously it was a issue based platform. Now it is country specific, because country, whatever they are facing with, whatever issues they are facing with, that country specific platform is going to coordinate or ensure coordination between different agencies, right? So what is this particular platform? So this is the Green Climate Fund, which was already there, and it is its readiness and the preparatory support program. So what do we mean by readiness and the preparatory support program? Basically, see, the climate change is going on, right? There is a rise of the greenhouse gases. There has been a lot of impact because of that. So one should be ready. One means the country should be ready, and along with that there should be mitigation measures that should be available along with that in order to deal with the situation of climate change. Now this Green Climate Fund that has been provided or empowered by the Paris Agreement also under Article 9, so that is being utilized over here. So what is the objective of this? To strengthen the institutional capacities of the countries. Generally, we are taking into consideration those countries which are the developing and the least developed countries here, in order to support them, in order to ensure better governance mechanism and planning towards the transformation long-term climate action agenda. So it is going to ensure the better coordination between different stakeholder, providing them with the adequate funding, providing them with the mitigation of the impact of climate change. Now, talking about the purpose, why this particular entire fund or entire mechanism for the fund has been set up, the country specific fund, right? So this is the country or the region specific platform that has been established. So in order to translate the climate priorities into the programmatic investment approach. So जो भी climate priorities है, whether it is the reduction of greenhouse gases, whether it is regarding the afforestation, whether it is regarding any other thing which you consider as an important aspect of mitigating the climate change, so those particular thing will be realized in the form of the investment approaches. So the investors or different institutions will be encouraged now to invest based upon these. Now, talking about that, what was the previous approach? The previous approach was basically a fragmented approach. Okay, so that was being talked about generally ki bhai dekho, this is the situation and that's why the funding has been provided through that. Now this approach has been changed to ensure the better coordinated approach, which will be the country specific, because where you are going to mitigate that, it is not same for all the region, whether you talk about greenhouse gases, whether you talk about any other issues pertaining to climate change. So we have to ensure the better coordinated approach in that region specific. There is a need to ensure the better governance mechanism, strengthening the institutional capacity, and that's why this particular coordination has been ensured through the Green Climate Fund's readiness and the preparatory support program. Now, it is going to ensure the better coordination between the different public, private, international, local stakeholders. So there will be people of that country, there will be government concerned, there will be neighboring countries, there are different financial institutions. All of them are part of the stakeholder in this particular aspect. Clear hai? So this is basically, this has taken place in the recent COP30 in Brazil, Belém, right? Now, regarding the Green Climate Fund, because we have discussed already regarding that this fund is created under the, or this particular facility is being created under the Green Climate Fund. That's why we have to also discuss about that, where it was formed, what is the objective of this, right? So it is the world's largest climate fund. So it is created in order to mitigate the impact of the climate change. So when it was created, it was not created under the Paris Agreement, but it was empowered further under Paris Agreement. So it was created when? In COP16, which was in 2010. The Paris Agreement was there in 2015, where it is provided as the vehicle for investment or facilitating the investment in providing the investment to the developing and the least developed countries. So this particular fund has been created in order to mobilize the money or the funding from the developed countries to the developing and the least developed countries. Now, talking about this, it serves as a Paris Agreement in accordance with the Article 9, which talks about the same thing, that there should be funding support from the side of developed countries to the developing countries in order to ensure the better future, right? To support the developing countries in raising and realizing the nationally determined contributions ambition. So, suppose karo, if you are a developing country and you do not possess the capability in order to reduce the greenhouse gases. Now, what mechanism do you have in order to reduce those gases? And even you do not have any other incentive. So what you will do, you will emit more and more greenhouse gases. Now, on the contrary, this type of fund where the funds are being channelized from the side of developed country to the developing countries. Now, if these arrangements are there, don't you think so? The developed countries के through जो funding आ रही है, that funding is being channelized in order to do the capacity building of the developing countries. Along with that, the technological sharing will also be there. All these things will ensure the developing country that they should also be going for the mitigation measure as far as the climate change is concerned. Clear hai? Now, it is governed by the Green Climate Fund Board, and along with that, it is accountable through the Conference of Parties. So whatever changes we have seen, there has been new facility has been developed. So this is being done under that. What is the headquarter? Headquarter is in Songdo, Incheon City, which is in the South Korea. Okay. So basically, all these things have to be ensured in order to provide a total thing with respect to the Green Climate Fund and ensuring that the aspect with respect to the reduction of the negative impact of climate change should be there. So Songdo, Incheon City, which is in the Republic of Korea. Okay. Now, talking about the previous year question, so you can see that this is some previous year question that has been asked regarding the major outcomes of the 26th session of the COP. Now see, this is 30th, right? So whenever there are certain important things that are being discussed in this, so there can be question regarding those particular summit. Ab us summit mein kuch important discussions hote hain, those can be asked in the form of question. So like this, you can have a brief idea about this summit. One such thing we have discussed, certain other things we are going to discuss in the subsequent articles, right? Next is regarding the use of artificial intelligence in the governance. Now see, we have already in multiple discussions talked about that how artificial intelligence is becoming very, very important these days. And in every field of governance, artificial intelligence is playing very, very important role. That's why we have to discuss this article, and this article will serve as the example repository as far as the artificial intelligence is concerned. So whenever there will be for any concerned topic, there is any question comes, you can have an idea about those topics and then you can replicate those examples. So it is important from GS paper 3 technology, economic development and environment perspective. Along with that, GS paper 2 where the governance, constitution, polity, social justice, it is also important. Now, these are the applications, or I would say certain applications of the artificial intelligence in different aspect of governance. Now these are the sectors of governance that are being mentioned, and here it is the potential benefits that are mentioned, and these are the government initiative. Let's discuss each one by one. So for example, first is in the form of the healthcare sector. Now in the healthcare, one of the major issue is in order to identify the trend, in order to identify that which is the major prone region, in order to have a set of data which is also structured in nature. So agar मान के चलिए, if you have to identify, I'll give you one example. Let's say if in one specific region there is certain disease that is getting spread. Now, in order to identify that why this disease is getting spread in that region only and why not in the other region, if you have structured set of data available, for example, regarding demography, regarding the population composition, regarding their health related immunity, regarding their vaccination, regarding the trend in last 10 years, right? So if these data is available in the structured manner, you will be able to get to know that which might be the next region which will be suffering these kind of issues. So the trend setting, trend analysis, understanding through different type of data from the healthcare, you will get to know that how this thing can be replicated other place so as to reduce the incidence of certain diseases. So for diagnostics, personalized treatments, image analysis, early pandemic warning, these are certain things which are important from the perspective of the application of the AI in the form of healthcare sector. Now, Niti Aayog with the Department of Biotechnology aims to build the database for the cancer related radiology. So what they are going to do, they are going to assess and analyze those particular images, and then they will be comparing with those particular images of the, in that sense, with respect to the cancer related aspect, and they will get to know that what is the difference between two, and then they will assess with respect to other people also in order to get a clear idea about the incidence of cancer. Talking about agriculture, we have already discussed briefly in the last article, but crop advisory, pest detection. These can be certain things where the potential application is there. Now there are certain platform, for example, Krishi AI platform is there, Kisan E-Mitra portal is there, use of artificial intelligence in the pest management is there. So these are the things through which you get to know the trends. You will get to know the data which is structured in nature, and that will be utilized in the form of identifying that whether this region based upon this data is suitable for this XYZ crop or not. So these type of trend analysis also you can do. Talking about the smart mobility and transport, so this is the field where the artificial intelligence is already playing a very important role. Intelligent transportation system, identifying that where there is more rush or where there is more congestion with respect to traffic. So already you are seeing through the Google Maps, but collating that particular data, identifying which is the most efficient route, and then based upon that whether it is deployment of police personals or whether it deployment of the any other type of team which will be helping to reduce that congestion can be done. So intelligent transport system, travel and route flow optimization, these can be done. So there is ASTRAM, which is the actionable intelligence for sustainable traffic management, that has been done in Bengaluru. Similar model can be replicated other places also in order to efficiently deploy the personals from the side of the police or the law and order personnel, along with the diverting the people through the alternative route. Smart cities, so smart homes, where the things are going to be done through the use of artificial intelligence and IoT, right? The AI driven service delivery. So these service deliveries right now are being done in the form of certain set of things are being done at the manual level, so that can be further done with the help of artificial intelligence in order to reduce the gaps. Now integrated command and control centers that are being done as a part of the smart cities mission also, कि एक center पे you are monitoring all the 360-degree parameter of that particular city, whether it is traffic, whether it is pollution, whether it is any other type of disease, but all these things will be able to done on the single platform. Regarding education and skilling, so personalized skilling, automated administration, early dropout prediction, vocational guidance. So if you have data available with respect to the educational trend in any specific region, let's say we are talking about any African countries, so in that case you will be able to know कि भाई why because of this particular demography there is more dropout rate, whether it is because of the gender disparity, whether it is because of the social issues, right? So all these things with the set of data that is available, you will be able to know. Now talking about for skilling for AI readiness SOAR program, that people should be aware regarding the artificial intelligence. That's why recently Ministry of Education has also initiated this aspect ki bhai class 3rd onwards also there will be inclusion of the artificial intelligence as a part of the national curriculum framework. Talking about justice and legal framework, so there is case management system, smart scheduling. So many a time it happens that the pendencies because of the lack of human resources available in order to manage these things. So these things if being managed automatically by the artificial intelligence, you will be better able to know the trend. So e-courts project phase 3 is integrated, which integrates the advanced AI solution in the case management, case load management also, right? Lastly, in the context of the disaster management, so when we talk about specifically for the disaster management, in disaster management there is providing early warning system. Last may we have seen regarding the meteorological data regarding the different type of disasters that can occur, right? So early warning, supporting evacuation, then the search rescue operation during the emergencies, right? So when there are set of data first available in a structured manner, and that is synthesized and analyzed by the artificial intelligence, that is going to provide you a lot of benefit in order to understand trend, in order to understand data, synthesize that data and work upon that by making it as an actionable tool. So Center for Development of Telematics CDOT is developing the generative AI enhanced chatbot for the customer support and disaster early warning. So many a time it happens that disaster ke time pe may be a chance ki you might be getting certain late responses, but if this type of deployment is there, this is going to help you at very quick steps, and that will help you eventually to save the life of yours also and maybe others also. Clear hai? So these are the tools. Now see, each and every one of them can be asked separately as a part of question. Healthcare ke bare mein, agriculture, smart mobility, smart cities, education, justice, disaster management, or with respect to the utilization of artificial intelligence as far as the governance is concerned. These are the example. This is sufficient to write the answer entirely, even if 10 marker or 15 marker with respect to the governance and AI ka collaboration, right? Next topic that we have to discuss is regarding the recent terror attack in Delhi brought the new trend of the white collar terrorism to the light. Means there has been certain new discussions that are emerging that there is something known as the white collar terrorism. Now white collar job हमें पता है, but white collar terrorism where those people who are aware regarding the repercussions, aware regarding the consequences, they have studied well, they have got the benefit of the educational infrastructure and different other manner, and when they are involved in these type of terror activities, that shows that even those people can be utilized as a tool to propagate the terror activities, and that's why this white collar terrorism can be utilized as a term in that regard. Now syllabus perspective, so obviously internal security a very important topic, and even in the international relations also in the form of cross border terrorism it can be there. So cyber security, emerging security challenges, terrorism, counter-terrorism, governance and polity, and even international relations, it is important. Now, talking about the white-collar terrorism, what is this particular term? So, as I have suggested you that if those people who are not socially or economically deprived, but still they choose to utilize the terror as a tool to fulfill their ideological aspiration and utilize that as their end goal, that can be utilized, or that term can be used in the form of the white collar terrorism. So these are the professionals, these are the educated individuals who are involved in the terror activities. So that means there was already a term that you might have seen already in the news media, that the people, because of their socioeconomic circumstances, are forced to get involved in these particular situations. But what about these people who are basically a professional, they are well doing doctors, right, and they are involved in these particular activities? So when those people who are able to take the informed decisions weaponize the terror, weaponize their profession in order to propagate terrorism through the professional legitimacy, means कोई लोग शक नहीं करेंगे उन पे, academic networks, because they know that they have sufficient networks available, and if there is certain ideological coincidence between different set of people, then the entire network can be created easily. And also the access, because they can even access the institutions, whether it is academic institutions, whether it is the facilities, right? So they can utilize, and they are even aware regarding the new technological tools, whether it is artificial intelligence, on the machine learning, or maybe the cyber security, right? Now what are the key reasons for the emergence of this model of terrorism, which is the white collar terrorism? So first is the relative deprivation theory. मतलब कहीं ना कहीं certain communities are being talked about in that sense, that yes, you are always going to be relatively deprived, even if you get education, even if you get health, even if you are getting benefit of all the schemes which are being propagated by the government or being facilitated from the side of government, still you are relatively deprived, you will not get the equal status in this particular region. Then there will be a sense of hatred towards the other community, and that is going to fulfill in the form of the issues like these type of radical and the terror activities. So this is the relative deprivation theory. Next is the social identity theory, that you constantly search for certain identity. Once you got, let's say you became a professional, you became an engineer, you became a doctor, you became a lawyer, right? Now you are trying to identify yourself as that particular identity, or any other religious identity, or the ideological identity that you might be having. So search for an all encompassing identity which fulfills the purpose of your life. If that is the constant dilemma, then there may be social identity theory that says that the chances are very high that you also can become part of that entire network, because you are not keeping yourself getting the informed decision making, you are going beyond that, and that is making your decisions as the irrational one. Next is rise of digital technology. Now see, those people who are socio-economically deprived, they might not be having that much well idea regarding the utilization of these tools, which are the digital media or the digital or the social media tool. But those people who are working behind the curtain, they are having a detailed idea about how to exploit these tools. They are basically those people who are professionals, or who have decent level of educational and the learning. So this is also one such thing which is utilized by these professionals, and hence propagating in the form of the white collar terrorism. Now talking about that, there have been certain recent terms in the form of terrorism you might have seen, or if you have not seen, I'll discuss here. First is the lone wolf terrorism. Matlab here the individual in its entirety goes forward for the attack. For example, let's say you, a motivated individual by any specific ideological thing or maybe religious aspects, and you go and carry out all out attack against, let's say, a community or maybe a race, against a religion, like that, right? So it is a lone wolf attack. So that means an individual entirely, he had accumulated the weapons. Behind the curtain, there may be certain support that he can get, but generally the entire activity is being carried out by that particular individual only, and this is the lone wolf terrorism. And this is very, very difficult to detect also, because here generally not that large network is available, that individual have got control to certain weapons or certain equipments, and then individually that person is doing the criminal activities or this type of terrorist activities, right? So recently there have been Christchurch mein, New Zealand mein, there was an attack on different mosques by an individual, and that carried out by himself only. Later on it was identified that certain terror network was also involved, but that attack was entirely carried out, and even that terror attack was made as a Facebook live. So this is the way these lone wolf terrorism wala tools operate. Suicide bombing, you have already seen, whether it is Pulwama attack or where there are many such attacks. You might have seen even in the movies that there is some car which is like having the bomb filled with it, and then that comes, crashes with, let's say, army, or let's say any type of military establishment, or maybe any convoy, and then entire thing gets blasted. So this is the suicide bombing, means those persons who are doing this, those also get killed in this sense, but they are involved in the suicide bombing. Sleeper cells, generally these are inactive, but होता क्या है कि they becomes the part of the society. You will not be able to identify कि भाई who is the actual culprit. And this is one of the major issue, because in the normal parlance or in the common parlance, they are acting like the normal individual of the society, but silently they carry out their activity. And what they do generally, that they, whenever they get the instruction from the people who are controlling them, they becomes active and they carry out their operations. Last but not the least is the overground worker. Regarding this, UPSC had also asked the question regarding the role of overground workers, right? Specifically in the region of Kashmir. So they provide the logistical support. For example, let's say a ration wala, or let's say maybe the medical shop owner, or maybe any other person who is basically appearing like the normal trader or normal individual, but behind the curtain he is supporting through, let's say, funding, or maybe providing the supply to arms and ammunition. Matlab, if that is a trader, if he is taking a cargo from any specific place, along with that cargo certain arms and ammunition are also getting supplied. So generally people or the forces or the agencies do not do any type of, like, let's say, maybe they will not focus that much upon these people. They will appear like the normal people of the society, but they are also many a time get involved in these type of activities. So different facets are there as far as the emerging form of the terrorism is concerned. Now obviously, in order to counter these particular situations, government of India is also prepared with the counter terrorism structures, right? So investigation and intelligence के context में, when we talk about, there are different agencies. When we talk about at the international level, that getting an idea about that how different countries में रह के people are coordinating regarding the attack on India, there is the research and analysis wing, RANW, right? Apart from that, there is NIA, which is the National Investigating Agency for the terror attack related things, or maybe any other anti-terror related things. These are being done. NSG, which is the National Security Guards, right? So the force that is being deployed whenever there is any type of issues, let's say insurgency or any other thing happens, that the NSG is one such premier force that is being deployed. Intelligence Bureau, regarding the intelligence gathering, that where the potential targets may be there, they analyze a large set of data, and then they gives the idea regarding how and when the attack can carry out, right? The legal regime, which is the UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act of 1967, which is regarding the prevention of these particular activities, and also try those people who are getting caught out of these activities or the terror activities. Then preventing terror financing, because see, without money the people can't carry out these operations, because जो कर रहे हैं, those who are involved, they are also doing it for money majorly. Obviously ideological and the religious fanaticism might be there, but the money is also getting involved, right? So in that case, obviously the terror funding is there, generally hawala or maybe any other type of way jahan par money laundering is getting involved, so that is there. So terror funding and the fake currency cell, so that is the major issue. Apart from that, which is under NIA, then the combating financing of the terrorism cell, which is under the Ministry of Home Affairs. So these are the agencies which are involved over here. Lastly is the retaliatory response. So see, कई बार होता है ना, we say कि भाई there are people who will not, like, who will reveal like who they basically are. So retaliatory response, we are talking in the context of, let's say, Pakistan over here. So whenever we see any specific activities or the terrorist activities that are being propagated in India, so generally the Pakistan or the agencies of Pakistan, let's say formal or the informal agencies that are part of that, so the retaliatory response is also much needed in those cases. So whether it is the surgical strike, or whether it is the Operation Sindoor, or whether maybe in future also the government can carry out any other operation, right? So these retaliatory responses also should be there in order to ensure that there should be some sort of resilience regarding that. If you are going to do any attack, if you are going to plan any attack, then you will see the retaliatory measures also. So this is regarding the retaliatory response, which is in the form of the deterrence creation, right? So this is regarding the emerging form of terrorism and the counter-terrorism strategy that government is employing. So next is regarding the personality in news, and today's personality in news is Kartar Singh Saraba. This is the time period. So 1915 May he was executed and martyred, right? So recently there has been the anniversary of Kartar Singh Saraba. That's why we have to discuss about this personality. In the modern Indian history, when you will read during the time period of the between World War time period of initiation of World War I, you see a lot of revolutionary activities those got initiated whether from India or from abroad, right? So one such prominent activity was Gadar, and he was a prominent personality associated with the Gadar movement, and that's why he is very, very important. So Indian revolutionary who belonged to the region of Punjab. Now the Gadar movement, say he was associated from very, very young age, and you can see his age. He was not even 20 years. At 19 years, he got martyred, right? That's why these personality, whether it is Khudiram Bose or whether it is Kartar Singh Saraba, these are very, very important personality to be understood from the exam perspective, nahi, in general from our history perspective, right? So Gadar Party was formed by the people of Indian origin in the United States in 1930 in order to propagate the anti-British sentiments and to overthrow the British government in India. So they had to propagate certain activities. So these activities were being done through the free speech or utilization of free speech. Certain tools were being released, certain type of magazines were being released, the newspaper like the Gadar, which is being done released, right? And apart from that, there were certain personalities those sent to India in order to propagate certain anti-British sentiments. So Kartar Singh Saraba was also one such prominent personality. So he focused on mobilizing the Indian soldiers to revolt and set up a small-scale arm manufacturing unit in Ludhiana. Then later on, once he was captured, he was charged with the sedition in the Lahore conspiracy case, and ultimately he was tried and executed on in 1915. So that's why the personality is very, very significant and important. So along with this, now since the personality that was there in news, we have also seen regarding the Gadar movement. It is your responsibility. Once Google the Gadar movement and have a brief idea about that, or whatever study material with respect to modern history that you are having, definitely there is going to be the coverage of Gadar movement or the Gadar party. Just have an idea about that. Having discussed about him, let's also discuss certain other quick updates. First in this is the Senkaku Island. So you can see in the East China Sea, between the territory of China and between the territory of Japan, there is a series of islands which is generally considered as the disputed between Japan and China. So these are the part of the Japanese island chain, but being claimed by China also, and that's why sometimes there is nearby formations that are being done by China. And recently there has been formation of the Chinese Coast Guard ships that was seen nearby this, and that's why this Senkaku Island again became important. So this is also known by the name of the Diaoyu Island in the Chinese. So they are also known as Diaoyu Island in Chinese. So whether it is Senkaku or the Diaoyu Island, the both are same only. They are part of the Okinawa prefecture of Japan. So Japan के जो prefectures हैं, उसका एक part है which is Okinawa का part. Where it is located, it is in the East China Sea. So you can see East China Sea, that's there. Okay. Next is regarding Anegada Passage, right? So you can see regarding Anegada Passage. So this is the series of the Caribbean islands, right? So in the Caribbean islands ka series, here on the southern side or the southwestern side, it is the Caribbean Sea, and here in the northern side, you will be able to see it is the Atlantic Ocean. So this Anegada Passage is separating the Atlantic Ocean from the Caribbean Sea. So basically, a term UPSC exam में आती है, and that can be asked in the form of a separate question, separates which two water bodies, so Caribbean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean. So the fighter jets and the guided missile destroyer transited through the Anegada Passage, parts of the US Operation Southern Spear against the narco terrorism in the Caribbean. Already there were certain activities going on from the side of US on the coast of the South America nearby Venezuela and others, right? We have seen regarding the islands previously also. So this is a channel in the West Indies connecting the Atlantic Ocean to the Caribbean Sea, 65-kilometer wide, not that important, but yes, just an idea. Separates the British Virgin Island, this is the British Virgin Islands, and then the Leeward Islands. The Leeward Islands are over here, right? So this is separating. Anegada Passage is situated in between them. This is the passage separating the Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean Sea. One of the two passages through which the subsurface water enters the Caribbean Sea. Next is regarding the Integrated Forum on Climate Change and Trade. So generally, see, whenever we are talking about trade and climate change, these are two very, very important things. Climate change is the reality. Trade is also very, very important from the economic perspective. But sometimes what happens that they are also contradictory. अगर आप trade को control करते हो, तो climate change obviously can be reduced. But the trade can't be controlled beyond certain limits. Otherwise, it will impact the economies. So they generally are considered as the conflictory in nature. So Integrated Forum on the Climate Change and Trade, that was launched in COP30 in order to provide a platform, which is a platform which is not for negotiation, which is not for giving any kind of binding judgment, but to discuss the contentious issues which are having focus towards the climate change having repercussions on trade, or focus towards trade having repercussions on the climate change, vice versa situation. So to create a permanent politically supported space where the countries can address increasingly contentious intersection between the trade policies and the climate action, institutionally independent of both WTO and UNFCCC. So इसका objective is not to create a platform जहां पर there will be binding decisions will be made, but to create a platform where the deliberations can be done. So forum will be co-chaired by Brazil and a developed country. This will not be negotiating the binding outcome or interpret the existing agreement or adjudicate the dispute or evaluate the specific national measure. It is basically to provide a common platform, an open platform in order to discuss these issues which are impacting climate and the trade. Next is regarding ESCAPADE mission. So the NASA's ESCAPADE mission, ESCAPE and the Plasma Acceleration and the Dynamic Explorer mission. Previously it was delayed and now it has been launched. So spacecraft launch abroad a Blue Origin New Glenn rocket, right? So it is to investigate, this is basically to investigate that why the Mars atmosphere is not that much predominant, and specifically we are talking about the magnetic field around the Mars, because there has been significant losses of the loss of the magnetic field around the Mars that has been there. So in order to identify that why that had happened, okay, so those things are being understood through the ESCAPADE mission. So there are two satellites that are being launched as a part of this mission. So investigate how the solar wind interact with the Mars magnetic environment, and generally it is understood that this is responsible in order to remove the majority of the magnetic field. So how Mars has lost its atmosphere and why it is transitioned from the potentially wet world to the cold arid planet right now it is. Okay, so it could have been another Earth type ka planet, but right now there has been significant loss of the atmosphere and the magnetic field of the Mars. So Mars magnetosphere is made up of the leftover magnetic field, whatever is remaining, right, apart from the ancient core, and a weak magnetic field in its upper atmosphere. So जो थोड़ा बहुत बचा हुआ है, that is the remnant, right? Now it loops around the Earth's Lagrange point 2. It means this particular mission जो launch किए हैं satellite, they are placed in the Lagrange point 2. We have already discussed previously that what is Lagrange point 2. So just assume a scenario. Let's say if this is the sun, this is Earth, and in that particular scenario, this is, if we are talking about that this is the Earth, so this will be the Lagrange point 1. Here beyond the Earth it will be the Lagrange point 2. So for the space based observation, this Lagrange point 2 will be preferred. 3 will be here beyond the sun. 4 and 5 will be somewhere here and here. So why these Lagrange points are being chosen? In order to efficiently utilize the fuel, because यहाँ पर जो भी gravitation होता है, that is resultant is equal, and that gives the centripetal force so as to continue with their path. Minimum fuel consumption is being observed at the Lagrange point. That's why it is being chosen. Next is regarding the Eurasian Economic Union. So India is in talk with the Eurasian Economic Union to sign the free trade agreement, and that's why the negotiations are being reviewed now. and that's how this Eurasian Economic Union is also important. So it is the international organization for the regional economic integration. So it is basically a economic union which is a cooperation between certain countries, which includes Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Russia. So these are 5 countries came together in order to remove the trade barriers between them. Apart from that, other barriers including the professional mobility and all, and they are trading freely without having any duty or having minimal duties. Like this is the economic union, Eurasian Economic Union, right? When it was formed in 2014 through the Treaty of the Eurasian Economic Union. Now what India is doing, India is signing a free trade agreement, not yet signed, but India is in discussion. So when the free trade agreement is going to be signed, so with these countries through the Eurasian Economic Union, now India can also get the preferential access to the trade or comparatively duty free or the tariff free, or at a very minimal tariff, India can do the trade. So it enables the free movement of goods, services, capital, labor, coordinated by the different type of unified policies. Next is regarding the systematic observation impact bond. What are the impact bond? The concept is important. We have previously also discussed regarding this. So impact bond is tied to the result or the outcome. So that's why it is also the outcome based bond. Suppose karo, if this is bond tied to the education, and you have set this particular bond as if this much education level is achieved, or for example if this much percentage of result is achieved, then only this bond ka return you are going to get. And if you are as an investor are investing in that, you will try to ensure ki utna result achieve ho, that means outcome should be achieved. So that's what is the fundamentals of the impact bond. That is, they are there in order to create certain impact as far as the different aspects are concerned, whether it is society and all. So systematic observation impact bond, it is the world's first impact bond on the weather and climate data, recently open for the contribution. Now people are going to contribute in this, they will invest their money, and they would want to ensure ki whatever objectives are set behind this, that should be achieved, then only they are going to get the money return along with certain interest, right? So they are announced as a part of the COP30, right? UNFCCC action agenda. They ensure or strengthen the resilience and the early warning worldwide. Okay? So to ensure the resilience with respect to climate change or the early warning system, this is there. So it seeks to initial capitalization of $200 million by 2026. Now pioneered by the Systematic Observation Financing Facility, this is the main facility which is creating this fund, along with the which is a United Nations fund created by the UNEP, WMO, World Meteorological Organization, and the United Nations Development Program. So this created the Systematic Observations Financing Facility. Now it will help the least developed countries and the small island developing states in order to meet the global basic observing network standard. मतलब basic standards achieve करने के लिए help करेगा Systematic Observation Impact Bond. Next is regarding the food waste breakthrough, FWB. So again another outcome of the COP30, which was held in Belém, Brazil, right? That the 2030 solution that was taken under the Marrakesh Partnership for the Global Climate Action. Now what is the objective of this world food waste breakthrough? So it will ensure and unite the government, cities, civil society to act on the issue striking at the heart of the global hunger and the climate change. Ki climate change is also impacting. We had seen that the climate change or disasters are also impacting the food security. So how that food security is going to get impacted? This is the scenario that has been talked about in COP30. So it mentions that if this particular breakthrough is going to be achieved, if we are going to mitigate this issue, in that case we can reduce the global food waste by half, and also lagbhag 7% of reduction as far as the methane gas emission that can also be ensured by 2030. Now funding support kahan se aayega? Global Environment Facility is going to provide the funding support, $3 million. The country champion include Brazil, Japan, UK, along with there are multiple global cities, private sector partners. So these are the people who are contributing as far as this particular funding is concerned. Next is regarding the Ambaji marble and the GI tag. So basically what is Ambaji marble? So this is the type of marble that was being available, that is available in the Banaskantha district of the Gujarat. This has recently got the GI tag. Whenever there is any specific article or any specific thing that gets the GI tag, in general GI tag is important, and that particular product along with the region, that is also important. So Ambaji marble has got the GI tag. It is milky white color, which is a natural, which is famous for the natural beauty and also the durability. Now suppose karo if there is any other person sitting, let's say, in Delhi and sells the marble with the name of the Ambaji marble, that person can't do, because this is associated with the geographical identity of the Banaskantha district. Wahi ka person can sell this particular Ambaji marble. So this is the benefit that is being provided by the geographical indication, that this gives idea regarding that geographical origin, and that is a proof of the authenticity. For example, Darjeeling tea, for example, Bengal's rasgulla, or like this different products that have got the GI tag, that gives the idea regarding authenticity, and that increases credibility, and that increases also the sale of that product. It is a certification given to the product originating from certain origin, and these products are famous for their, let's say, aesthetic appeal, or maybe their taste, or any other type of thing that is there. So like for this Ambaji marble, for the milky white color, natural beauty and durability. Now GI tag is being provided under the geographical indication of the good registration and the protection act of 1999. The duration for which this protection is provided is for 10 years, right? And which is the concerned ministry department? Department is Department of Promotion of Industry and the Internal Trade, DPIIT, Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, and the ministry is Ministry of Commerce and Industry, which is the concerned department and ministry. The last is Raulane festival. So Himachal Pradesh Raulane festival, which is preserving the ancient faith and tradition that has been recently celebrated, and that's why whenever these trade fair, or maybe certain type of these things are getting organized, those can be asked from the examination perspective. ठीक है, कभी कोई मेला लग रहा है, sometimes some festival is getting celebrated, so those things can be asked. So roughly ancient 5000 year old festival है किन्नौर का, हिमाचल प्रदेश, that honors the mystical celestial fairies known as Saunis, right? So there are two men in this particular act. They are symbolic groom and bride. ठीक है, दोनों men होते हैं symbolic groom and bride, Raula and the Raulane. They are fully covered with the Kinnori woolen clothes, and they are representing link to the divine, and they are performing their mystical dance. ठीक है, so they pair walks to the Narayan temple and performs the slow devotional dance. Now see, I would say कि generally इतना यूपीएससी जितना पूछती है, majority of the times they are going to ask about the festival and the associated region, but sometime that is related to which particular faith and what, that can also be asked. That's why having this much idea is good to go for the examination regarding this festival. Okay. So with this, we have completed the news today discussion for the 16th and 17th of November. I hope whatever we have discussed is clear to you. Now, whatever questions are there on your screen, try to solve them, and also visit the page of Digital Current Affairs in order to get further features with respect to current affairs. Okay, we'll meet again regarding another set of discussion. Thank you everyone. Have a great day.